Hello, hope you're doing good today. I want to jump right into our lesson. I want to talk about algebra today, algebra and preaching. I know, very unlikely that those two are ever used together. That may be the first time that you've ever heard it, but here's how I want to frame this. I want to talk to us today about including algebraic preaching in our preaching schedule. And what I mean by algebraic preaching, the importance of including pre-Christian preaching, pre-Christian theology in our preaching. So I want to talk to us about that today, and I hope when I get through you will agree with me and understand what I mean. Math, algebra, geometry, trigonometry, all that stuff, it was not something that I enjoyed. It was not a part of my desire for life. There's basic math that I use virtually every day of my life, but algebra was not something that I used a lot or wanted to use. But it's surprising how much we use algebra in our life and we don't even realize it. I remember out of 12 years of school, I only remember one of my teachers' names. Only one. I remember her name. Maybe it was because we moved a lot. I went to 6 different schools during my 12 years. I don't know, but anyway, I only remember one. Her name was Miss Martindale or Mrs. Martindale. I don't remember if it was a Miss or a Mrs., but I remember Martindale. And she was a bit of a grumpy little old gal. I guess if I taught algebra for a living, I'd be grumpy too. I remember she undoubtedly dyed her hair. It was a dark black with a green sheen to it. When the light would hit it just right. She was a bit of a mystery woman to all of us. She kept us on edge, I guess. But I refused to get on board with her teaching. And I did just enough to get by. Probably D's. I know no better probably than C's. C's and D's through Algebra 1 and Algebra 2. But I remember, I guess it was in Algebra 2, and I remember she would ride me. She knew I was loafing. She knew I could do better. And so to her credit, she stayed on me. And so one semester, one 6-week period, I told her, I said, if I make an A, will you leave me alone from there on? And she agreed. So I did, and she did. That's one of my memories of high school. Making that A in algebra just to show her that I could do it. And then after that, I plummeted back down to my C's and D's. But as I have mentioned, we use algebra more than you realize. Let me give you an example. A plus B equals C. Okay, I know that's clueless to me. I mean, that means nothing to you, means nothing to me. A plus B equals C. Because we don't know what A means or B means, and we don't know what we're trying to achieve. C. But let's assume that A equals time and B equals speed. Then C equals distance. Well, then now suddenly the lights go on, and you know that if you have 1 hour, A, and you can average 60 miles an hour, B, then you can connect the dots. If I can travel for 1 hour and average, a little faster, a little slower, but average 60 miles an hour, then I can travel 60 miles. I can get down the road 60 miles. And so you can begin to kind of estimate just that one little formula, you can decide, I do this all the time, I'm going to do it later today. You can decide when you need to leave or to arrive at a certain time, because A plus B equals C. Time plus speed equals distance. And so that's an example of elementary algebra, and we do those kind of things all the time. But here's the issue that I want to talk about today. If we hope to reach the world with the gospel and help our people live a Christian lifestyle, we will have to help them with what I'm going to call spiritual algebra in understanding how the world is and how to live a Christian worldview. View the world through a Christian lens and how that looks. Now, let me give you an example. Let's say the formula for living a God-pleasing life and having a Christian worldview is X plus Y equals Z. There you go. X plus Y equals Z. That is the formula for living a God-pleasing life or having a Christian worldview. Now, it's obvious that means nothing to you or your people or the people outside your church. But if we're not careful, that's what we're doing. That's exactly how our preaching sounds to people. We get up and we say X plus, we don't realize we're doing it, but we are saying X plus Y equals Z. And they're not clear what X and Y mean, and so they don't even know what you're trying to achieve. And so they insert their interpretation, their definitions into what you're saying. You know, a typical altar call or invitation would be something like this. Come forward and confess your sins and accept Jesus Christ as your atonement and be saved. Well, if people don't know what that means, they have no idea of what you're saying and how to respond. And even most Christians, the sad truth is, for most Christians even, they don't know what that means to confess your sins and accept Jesus Christ as your atonement and be saved. For most people, even Christians, Christianity is a transaction. We say a prayer, get a deal. Accept Jesus Christ and you'll be blessed. You'll be healed. You'll make money, or all kinds of deals out there. And people go from church to church looking for the best deal. And so you make this transaction, and God helps you, and you try to be a better person. You work hard, and you try to be a better person. And that's salvation. That's the Christian life. It's a transaction. We see this not only that, but in other areas. Take, for instance, you're a pastor. I've seen this as a pastor. We see it all the time. People's children get pregnant out of wedlock. They don't take their cues from the Bible. They take their cues from the culture. Their son, their daughter goes public as being gay or trans. Suddenly, how are these parents responding the way they're doing? They're not taking their cues from a Christian worldview. They're taking their cues from the culture. They get a pay raise. This is one of the great ways to see if Christians have a Christian worldview. You get a pay raise. What do they normally do? They just raise their standard of living. They get a bigger TV, a better car, a bigger house. They have no clue of what a Christian worldview is. For the average Christian, for the average non-Christian, grace is a sugary Oreo that a indulgent papa, vague granddaddy kind of God up there, he overlooks our, hey, we're just human. I'm doing the best I can. I'm trying to be a better person. I'm not as bad as Joe over there, and I'm better than I used to be. And God, I'm sorry. And he'll give us an Oreo. So forget it. Don't worry about it. And for the average Christian and average person in your church, you'd be surprised at how few of them understand the exclusivity of Christianity. Christianity is just one of the many options, maybe the best option, but all the religions, they're basically the same. Salvation is about saving the planet or taking up for the immigrants, the illegal immigrants that are coming in, or building a wall and keeping them out. It's all of these other things, and they have no idea what X plus Y really means. Algebraic preaching helps us to understand what those meaningless words and symbols mean. Now, but it's worse than that. Not only do people have no real concept in this post-Christian world we live in, but it's worse than that. We live in a post-Christian God. The classic concept of monotheism, the three great religions of the world, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, who believe in a creator. Most people, they have no concept of that. We live in a not only a post-Christian, but a post-God world. They're religious. They believe, they have all these vague concept of God, this force, this power, Mother Earth, on and on it goes. But they have no concept of a creator who loves us and lovingly created us for a purpose and expects us to fulfill that purpose. Nothing drove this home to me. I guess why this became urgent is a recent election and the radical turn that our nation has taken on abortion. Now, no matter how, and because there's people that listen to my podcast or my blogs or video blogs who don't necessarily agree with me but they listen. So no matter how you stand on this, on abortion, I think we can all agree, there was a time when abortion was seen as a tragedy by almost all people. It was a last-ditch solution, even for people that believed that abortion was okay, and I don't, except in very rare situations where you've got to make the choice between the mother and, there those kind of situations. But I believe that life begins right at the moment of conception, and I stand by that. But no matter where you stand, I don't think any of us, when back in the 70s and 80s, when abortion began to be legal in our country, that there would come a day when we would celebrate abortion. We would vote for people that really wanted to have abortion with no limitations. That's kind of what's on the line right now. There's no limitations on abortion. Man, it's a right. We need to write it into our Constitution that abortion is our right. It's health care. How did that happen? How did we get there? Well, I'll tell you how we got there. This is not a Christian issue. This is a creation issue. We have somehow lost the idea that we were lovingly created by a creator who created us, knit us together in our mother's womb for a purpose, in a unique design, in a unique way, what we would call handicap or whatever. God created everybody lovingly for a design. With all of our what we call flaws, God created us beautiful, everybody, every baby, every life. And so every life is special. Every life is sacred. Every life is a part of the tapestry of humanity and has a place and a purpose there. But we've lost that. How did we lose that? Because we lost our creator. If there's no personal creator who created the world in a certain way for a certain purpose, then everything gets hazy. Life has no real value. And we have trouble even understanding what a man or woman is. It gets hazy. It gets fluid. We can redefine marriage, something that even the Greek culture, who was not strong on marriage necessarily, homosexuality and all of those things were a part of celebrated a part of their life, but they never moved beyond the original definition of marriage. But today we do it. How did that happen? How did we get there? Well, it's just a human construct. There's no God. There's no creator. This is just a human construct. And so here's my point, pastors. Saying X plus Y equals C louder and louder helps nothing. Screaming at the world and tell them how bad they are, how wrong they are, means nothing. We're not going to be salt or light to our congregation or to the world just by screaming X plus Y equals Z. We've got to help them connect the dots to understand what X plus Y equals Z means. How Z being a Christian worldview. So how do we do that? Well, here's how we do it. It looks like this. X equals general theology, or the creation order, or some call it general revelation. Romans 1, that's what Paul's doing there. That's what, when Paul spoke to the people at Athens, that's what he used. He didn't preach Judaism to them. He went pre-Judaism. He went all the way back, pre-Christian, pre-Judaism. He went all the way back to the Garden of Eden, to the day of creation. And so I want to encourage you to include pre-Christian, pre-Judaism, pre-Old Testament theology in your preaching. Do you know, most people don't know this, evolution is on the ropes. Evolution that says that something came out of nothing just by chance, and that a rock, something that does not have any conscience, something that was dead, created intelligence, created life. That type of evolution is on the ropes. More and more people, more and more scientists are struggling with that because it doesn't add up. But most people don't know that. Put the Creator back into your preaching and teaching, not mocking evolution, not calling evolutionary scientists idiots and dummies. Just gently, courageously, accurately put the Creator back into people's lives. A good place to start is to preach through the first 11 chapters of Genesis. In there, we see how the world was created. We see how the family was, how marriage was created, how the family was created, how civilization was created. You can learn the Table of Nations. Almost all the major advancements in human culture are mentioned in the first 11 chapters of Genesis. General theology. And then, so X equals general theology. Y, this is something, equals the law of God. This is where Moses comes in. You want people to be saved from their sins. They got to know what sin is. We want people to fear God, have reverence for God, and do the things they do for the beginning of wisdom. You know, before you even get saved, the beginning of wisdom is the fear of God. How to live in this world is to fear God, to fear His law, to abide. Just like when you're traveling down the road and you see a policeman on the side of the road, you slow down. You fear the law. It teaches you respect. And the reason our world can go headlong into oblivion is because they don't fear God. They don't know where the boundaries are. They don't know the speed limit. And so the law was given to us. All of those laws, we don't have to go by the original constitution of the theocracy of the Jewish nation. But every one of those laws means something. It reveals something to us about the character of God. And there's a way to apply all of those things into our Christian worldview. That's the whole purpose, or one of the main purposes and themes of the book of Galatians. When Paul was writing to them, he kind of sums it up, Galatians 3:24. Therefore, the law was our tutor to bring us to Christ. And so the average Christian has never gone through elementary school, the law, what the law means, the expectations of God. And so they never get into the New Testament. The New Testament is a sugary, God is love and grace and Oreo Christianity. The Christianity is all about me being happy and being prosperous and feeling good and God doing what I want Him to do all the time when I want Him to do it. They don't understand the law. And so when we preach to have a Christian worldview, we've got to also give them the underpinning of general theology, the creation order. This is the only way life is going to make sense, is if you understand the Creator and why He made things the way He did. And then the only way you're going to be able to be empowered by the Holy Spirit, that enabling grace, is that you're going to have to understand the law of God, and that you have sinned and fallen short of the law, the expectation of God. But God is merciful, and He's provided an atonement. Someone has taken your place. Therefore, you can be saved from the penalty of your sin, and His enabling grace is now going to help you to live up to His expectations. So I hope that makes sense. Bottom line, if we hope to be a healing salt and a guiding light in our culture, it's not going to be by screaming and shouting at those mean, bad people and building straw men, as they say in our church, and mocking the world. That's not going to help our people. And it's not going to help us reach the world. It's not going to happen at a ballot box. By all means, vote. But people are going to vote after Roe versus Wade was put back to the states. The pro-life has lost every election that's brought before the people to try to put any kind of hindrance. People go into the ballot box, they're not voting the Christian worldview. They don't have a Christian worldview. They're voting convenience. They're voting the culture. So the ballot box is not going to change until the hearts of people change. And so we tell people about a Creator who loves us, but He created us for a purpose, and He has expectations. And when we fall short, then we get into the New Testament, where we find mercy, atonement, salvation, and enabling grace that does not indulge us, but that empowers us to live a life that is pleasing to God and therefore fulfilling for us. Algebraic preaching, pre-Christian, general theology, the law of Moses, gets us to the New Testament. The New Testament, Z, Y plus X plus Y equals Z. Z means little to nothing if we don't know what X and Y stands for. So I'm going to put a couple links in this blog of some resources that I use that just helps me to stay in tune with general theology and the creation order and even the law of Moses, God's expectations. And that may be of interest to you. All right, God love you. There you go. That's my little pitch today. Hope it's helpful to you, and I believe it'll be helpful to your people and help us to reach this world as we run to win for the gospel's sake. God bless you. See you around the bend.